All right, welcome back to episode 16 of Book Nook Brews. In this episode, we're going to be covering chapters 51 through 69. Noise. Of Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee, which is also the end of Portrait of a Thief, and therefore another Brews review at the end of this.
Our fourth one, I think.
Our fourth book, so fourth one, yeah. Fourth Brews review. But before that, guess we talk about our brews. Right now, at the moment, we're not drinking anything, but we did have 2 Dos Equis beers. Therefore, it's 4 Equis. Yeah, so that's, I guess, our brew of the day.
Yes.
Have kind of found a love for that beer. Just
all thanks to the NBA.
Yeah.
they really know
how to do advertisements for the NBA playoffs. And once I saw that in a glass, I said, yep, I got to have it. I had it, and I cannot let it go.
Although I got to say, after that Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, back to Corona we go.
I think we're about to go back to Corona. Well, yeah. How did it end?
He ends it. He's just like, bienvenidos a la vida más fina. And I was like, yes, take me anywhere you want to go, Pedro.
So, yeah, NBA has been taking up quite a bit of our afternoons lately.
Yes.
Just got to say, I love my Celtics. Swept the Pacers.
Yep.
This series has got me so stressed, but I'm excited to see my boys in the finals. So, yippee!
Now it's time for Luka to come out.
Yes, it's time for him to close out his series.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised that both of them, like both teams, finished or were at their series with 3-0, and now it's just time for the Mavs to finish off theirs. So. Yeah.
But this is not a sports podcast. So.
No. We digress. Sorry. It's just been on our minds for quite a bit. Although before we get into the books and the recap, I just want to say I had my first little book haul in quite a little bit. I bought some books this weekend. Yeah. I went out with some girls. I did some book thrift store shopping for some books. Used books. Got a couple there. Got some really cool finds. And then we went to our local bookstore and we got even more books. So I'm so happy. It'll probably take me another few years, but it's okay. We got this. I will say I'm not the only one who got a book from this book haul. You did get 2.
I did get 2.
So, and honestly, maybe one of them we could read for the podcast. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Might just be our own personal ones that we can talk about later too. But all right, let's go ahead and get into the recap.
Yeah.
Because I have so many thoughts. I think you do too. So let's get into it. I'm going to do it the same style as I did last time, so I won't really say whose point of view I'm going through. Just going to do it all as one, essentially. So let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty. So Mr. Liang is outside of the place where Daniel was interviewed. Daniel figured his father was there to ask him about the heist in Norway, but he had nothing to hide. He told his father so. Mr. Liang asked him why he did the other heist, and he simply said, Beijing, it's art. How can we forget what has been lost? His father tells him that he brought them to America with the hopes of a better life. They are here in America. This country is theirs too. And his job will always be to catch thieves. However, if they're good enough, they won't get caught. Later, Daniel receives a call from Irene inviting him to New York. He says he won't help then, but he'll go to New York. Alex is back in New York to be with her family since her grandma may be in her final days. Irene calls Alex via video and asks her to join them for their heist at the Met. At first, she's hesitant, but Irene ends the call and tells Alex that she'll see her soon. Alex's mom tells her to go see her grandma at the hospital and asks Irene to go with her. As they reach her grandma's room, Alex freezes and tells Irene that she can't go in. Irene tells her to go for a walk and that she'll be here when she's ready. So she walks around, and when she makes it back, her grandma's asleep, making Alex just a tad more comfortable to go in. She would rather face her asleep than awake. They leave the hospital and head home, taking some time to walk through Chinatown. Irene holds Alex's hand and talks about how things don't have to be this way in a very vague manner. Alex thinks back to the times she spent with Irene and tries to convince herself that it's hatred and nothing more. It's impossible when they still have a job to get done. But she asks Irene, what else could we be? And Irene replies with, anything you want. So Will goes to his interview at the Met. He asks them to give him a tour, and he takes this as an opportunity to scout out the area. Once he finishes the interview, he meets Lily outside, who also did a tour of the museum to get information on where their cameras were located. Will starts to think about his relationship with Lily and wants something more than just friendship. He has been used to capturing the beauty of women with his sketches, but when he draws Lily, it feels different. And for a moment, he allows himself to think about having something more with Lily after this heist. The gang goes out for karaoke in Chinatown. Alex is mesmerized by Irene singing and admires how beautiful she is. As they leave, Daniel and Alex talk about Irene. Alex comes to the realization that Daniel is in love with her, and he tells Alex that so is she. Alex doesn't flat out deny it, and instead shifts the topic to there being too much to worry about tomorrow. Alex tells her that he's still figuring out how to let go of Irene, but no matter what happens tomorrow, it's time for him to move forward. Will and Lily have a moment in karaoke, leaving her to wonder what if. Once they're back at their place, Lily walks over to Will's room and at first tries to initiate sex, but then Will tells her that he doesn't want this to be a one-time thing because she means something to him. She tells him to ask her tomorrow once it's all over. She walks back to her room and crosses Daniel. She tells him that Will, Irene, and Alex are all going to get caught tomorrow, and Daniel replies, I know. Once Lily leaves, Daniel picks up his phone and calls his dad and tells him he needs to come back. So the next day, the heist begins. The three of them walk up, and Alex powers off the Met security system with her watch. They walk over to the Chinese art gallery, and Will's fingers brush against the dragon's bronze head. He was so close until he hears a familiar voice say, freeze. Mr. Liang is interrogating Will, and he tells him he wants to know the why behind it all. Will tells him, you're Chinese, isn't it obvious? And Mr. Liang replies, but you aren't, and it's not a bad thing, Giato. And goes on to say, I'm proud to be from China, but you were born here. This place is yours. Why take from it? And finally, we get to hear from Will's rationale. I've lived my whole life here, and I get asked where I am from. I want to think that I am Chinese and American both. But depending on the country, I feel like I'm not enough of either. But when there was this, and it felt like these sculptures, this art, it might mean something if I could bring them home. Mr. Liang gets up and tells him, these sculptures have always belonged to China. Wherever they are, they will always be ours. We know it in our hearts. And then he leaves to go to other interviews. Mr. Liang asks Irene to state her name and what she was doing at the Met. And after she states her name, she says she was at the Met trying to impress the girl. Now he goes on to interrogate Alex. Mr. Liang asks her what she was doing at the Met, and she tells him, I think you know. His phone starts to vibrate, and she tells him to answer it. And so he does, and ends the call with, absolutely, I'll be there. Alex asks, what was it? And he replies, I think you know. Mr. Liang goes back to Will and slides a New York Times article discussing how museums have been trafficking stolen art and showed receipts with emails correspondence from all over. He then lets Will go and tells him that the FBI is not interested in keeping track of trespassers. The Met has other things to worry about now. While Alex, Irene, and Will broke in, so did Lily and Daniel. However, their jobs was to grab info from one of the Met's desktop and send the files over to Zhao Min and Liu Siki, who broke out the story of what the Met and other museums were doing. Later, Lily gets a call from Will asking her out on a date. So later on, Yulin calls Will to congratulate him on getting all 5 Zodiac heads back to where they belong. All museums have reached out to give them an apology and a public acknowledgement of their rights to the art. Will then asks Yuling if she thought they could pull it off, and she tells him no, and never like that. But there are worse things than being wrong and to enjoy the 50 million. Daniel goes to his father's hotel room to speak with him. He asks how much he knew, and he replies with, he knew enough, and regardless, his son asks him to come home, and he will always come. Daniel apologizes, but Mr. Liang tells him that China will remember what they did for them always. His father also apologizes for not always putting him first after his mother died. He didn't know how to deal with his grief, and by the time he wanted to do something, Daniel was already leaving for college, and he didn't know how to speak with him. And thus, the start of the reconciliation begins, slow and steadily. Irene and Alex leave together, and Irene asks Alex what she will do with her 10 million. Alex tells her that she's going to start over and that she knows they were going to achieve this because she needed something to hold on to. She then confesses to Irene that she hated her at first. Irene pushes back and asks her if she still does and to prove it. And so Alex tells Irene she hates her and kisses her. 6 months later, so many things have changed, and yet some things didn't for Lily. She still has her Microsoft internship to look forward to, but now she has a steady income of money coming to her from her offshore bank that helps her pay off her student loans. She has 2 upcoming trips, one to Paris with the gang and another one to Beijing. Alex is now packing up her stuff. She's leaving Silicon Valley and heading to New York City first to be with her family before her next steps. Will calls her and asks her if she'll be at his graduation, and she confirms. She then tells him that she's going to get therapy, hoping it helps her, and Will is proud of her. Now, Daniel is boarding a plane when his dad texts him to have a safe flight. Daniel will soon graduate and go back to Beijing with his dad to visit his mother's grave, and afterwards he's going to start med school at Stanford. Irene quits her internship and will instead go on to work on a political campaign. Irene and Alex have a moment together, and Irene confesses to Alex that she never hated her. And even though she told Alex she was an engineer wasting her time here, she was giving Alex all of her time to her. Now for Will. After his graduation, he asks the crew to follow him. He takes them into an exhibit and shows them a piece of art he has been working on. He asks a stranger to take a picture of them, and in that moment, it felt enough for Will. And that's how Portrait of a Thief ends. What are your thoughts?
I thought the only good ending that was, I guess, for me, flawless was Daniel's. Will, partially. But then that's it. Mainly
okay,
because I thought romance was unnecessary. These characters did not need romance to have a good ending.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the romance was at the end without it being properly built up, I guess, because it was being built up, but not really. Like, there to just kind of like throw it all in the end. Where it's like, oh, Irene was like, oh, and I never actually hated you. It was like, okay, cool. But you were saying you did, like, the whole entire book. And it was only until the last few set of chapters where Alex was like, oh, I hope this is nothing more than me actually just being annoyed with her. Where was this the rest of the book?
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like their relationship didn't, or not like their relationship, but them getting together at the end really didn't need to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What I kind of wished is maybe leave the undertone that something could happen between them, but leave it open. Mainly because I feel like both of them have still a lot like to develop as themselves, as characters, that I really didn't need a kiss from them. This is one of the moments where I truly feel like romance was not necessary for them. Yeah. Like, sure, you can allude to potential romantic feelings.
Yeah.
But maybe not flat out show that they need a kiss, because just leave it as, like, honestly, I feel like where their relationship or like potential could have ended was when Alex asked Irene, like, well, what could we be?
Anything you want.
And Irene, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything you want, ended there. That would have been so epic. Yeah. That would have been just enough.
Yeah.
That's all I needed from that.
Yeah. And then your interpretation would go into
yeah,
that.
you like, can oh, you can then go on to thinking like, oh, maybe they become real good friends. Oh, maybe they actually become an item. But leave it up to interpretation. That one could have been left open.
Yep. And then
Lily and
Will and Lily. That is not a thing that I think should have happened whatsoever.
Yeah.
Lily was fine on her own, and Will's story ended perfectly fine without it needing a relationship.
Agreed.
Like Will's this feels just enough story ending was perfect.
Yes.
I think that would have been like, it's sick how it ended with him asking for a random stranger is like, hey, could you take a picture of us? Because this is my exhibit in a place that he used to work at. It's like that is what is just enough.
Yes.
And now he's working at the Met, right? Is he working there?
I don't know if it got confirmed if he is or isn't.
Well, now he's doing well. And he has his own exhibit in the place where he started, or this all started. And he asked a random stranger, hey, take a picture of us. This is my exhibit. That right there is like, okay, yeah, he made it and more.
And he feels like that moment is enough. It literally feels like he feels whole.
Yeah. And
that would have been enough.
Did not need that relationship with Lily. And it's not even a relationship yet, right? They were just going out for that date.
Yeah, it's
that
just
was if we finish this, you promised me a date or whatever. It's like, dude, just focus on the task at hand.
Where my
Lily doesn't need anybody. And Lily's story didn't need romance whatsoever. Just
I feel like
get her to
really
Microsoft and give her a car.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't really get much from Lily's ending, except that
we didn't really get much from Lily's story. It was just kind of her being racing and then going back and forth between she doesn't know what her identity is.
Yes.
Right?
Like that's like her main plot line. And I wish something could have come from this, except that, she does have a trip lined up later to go to, Paris and Beijing.
Like, I feel like if this was a movie, Lily would be the character to go to for a miniseries.
Yes.
No one else needs to get touched. Lily could easily become a series on her own for a spinoff.
Yes.
So that would have been perfect. That's because of how much we don't know of her. But it also fit the book. Like, she is that mystery character that didn't need anything else. But also, her ending did not need that relationship.
Yeah,
even though it was
agree.
Mysterious, it was not needed.
Yeah, I don't think she really... She benefits nothing from it. And
especially not like with it being Will.
Yeah. Like, there's so much to her that I feel like needs more development that Will is just not going to give her that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could have just not happened. Daniel's story ended exactly how it should have been.
Yep.
Him finally having a reconciliation with his dad and getting into Stanford med school.
I feel like if you were to ask me what this whole story is about, I wouldn't tell you it was a heist. I'd describe it as it's a story between a father and a son who fall out after his mom's / wife's death. And the son is lost, confused, goes through a period of, that's where you could mention the heists and stuff, but you could just say it's a reconciliation story between a father and a son who fell out after their mom or wife's death, because this whole story is based around that.
I have to say, I think it's a little bit more than just that too. I think a lot of it is the talks about the identity, and that's something I want to get into later when we do the Brews review.
No, yeah.
Is they don't really know like where they kind of belong in, and I feel like you see that within a lot of characters, mainly Lily and Will.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Irene.
But
Alex
that's
not
also
so much. She's a little bit separate. She has her own family things. But I do feel like a lot of the tension or like what is going to happen is thanks to Daniel and his father's relationship.
But I feel like the whole story is based around them two. And anything that happens around that is because of the side characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the story itself is about Daniel and his father. And then everything else on the side is because of all the other side characters. And obviously now you get these points of views and all that. But if you were to narrow it down, if you were to take away all these side things and just get like the core, it's Daniel and his father.
Interesting. Okay.
Because the end doesn't happen without his father being okay with Daniel and Daniel being okay with his father. Right? Because they could have easily gotten caught by now. The heist wouldn't have happened, whatever. They would have been in jail by now. Mm-hmm. Right? But his dad was like, you know what? You're my son. I trust y'all. You do what you do. Don't get caught. Blah, blah, blah. And that is because they're slowly getting to be okay with each other, right?
True.
He's seeing the apology from Daniel. Daniel seeing the apology from his dad without them really apologizing to each other. They're seeing it through their actions. And I feel like Will also learning his lesson by also getting caught by Daniel's dad is also the same thing.
That interrogation is everything I needed to know about Will.
Yeah.
And it gave me everything it gave me everything I needed to know about Will and feel like not happy, but I guess like content. Yeah, content with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I understand it. And it brings out, I feel like one of the bigger messages. Personally, I think that's like one of the bigger messages about the book is mainly their identity.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, is thanks to Daniel's father.
It's like you could say it's a story of a father and a son who are trying to reconcile their relationship with themes of identity, or finding your identity, feeling lost between your future, all that stuff within that story.
Yeah.
Like it all comes together because of, like it all adds up,
Now, question, are you happy with how that, with this last heist?
Am I happy with the heist, like how it happened, or
how it happened, like the overall situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am happy because, like, if I saw it coming, no, I wouldn't have been. But like how it happened, yes, I am completely 100% happy with it because of the way it was done.
Yeah.
Like first, by Daniel calling his dad, I was like, this dude is snitching on all of them.
I know.
I was like, yo.
Snitches get stitches, bruh.
I thought Daniel was going to snitch on all of them. It's like, dude, get them caught before they get themselves caught. and that way maybe he can help him out and get a lesser sentence or something like that. And then when they still went through with it, and Daniel was like, just like we practiced, I'm like, dude, you're so fake. You're so fake. Then they go in there, and they're about to grab the Zodiac head, and it's a freeze, and it's a familiar voice. It doesn't say who it is, but Will said it was a familiar voice. I was like, shit. This dude really ratted them out. And I love how it cut from that moment to the interrogation. That transition
almost like how it started from the very beginning. State your name for the record.
Yeah. And just how they're doing the interrogations back and forth. It's like, but it's the same question, but you get to hear everybody's different response. And then how the whole plan is put into action. It's the article, like they meant to get caught. Like that whole time, to go from, oh, Daniel snitched on all of them, to that was the plan all along.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
I know.
Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Now You See Me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yes.
It's like you think they're doing one thing, and then you think they fucked it all up. But at the end, that was the plan. And it was like, yo, like that was insane.
That
and
was
I think that
so
was
nice to see.
That the pacing of these past few chapters was great. I didn't think it was rushed. Except, the 6 month later part. But ignoring that, like the actual ending of the story was great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was so caught off guard. I was like, wait a minute. Like exactly when I saw that Daniel called his dad, I was like, there's no way. There's no way.
He's like, dude, you got to come home. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like, mind
Let
your
him stay
business.
there. Yeah, exactly. Let him stay there. He's too busy right now trying to get a promotion. Leave him.
Yeah.
And then all for this to kind of come together and using the people that they knew from over at Beijing, Siki and Min, helping them out actually achieving this. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
And then I loved it that Will finally gets his closure with Yuling asking her like, hey, like, did you always know that we were going to do this? She's like, no. But they're like better ways to like, they're better. They're worser ways than to be wrong about this. So enjoy your 50 million and like get the fuck out.
Yeah.
I was like, dude.
She's like, oh, if you need another job. He's like, see ya.
Yeah, exactly.
I do not want to go through this again.
I know. Oh my. I love that all. I was like, this is so nice.
Yeah.
It was such a nice pacing overall.
Yeah.
And I think the storyline like really was so good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Should we get into the Brews review?
I think we can.
All right. So let's start off. I think this is the one that, well, let's start off with the first one.
Sure.
So book characters. What did you give it?
I give it a 5.
Really?
I think because I feel like I got enough from each character. Like enough for the story. Could we have used more maybe about Lily? Sure. But I feel like for what the story was, for what the theme was, I feel like it was good from every single one. Now, if I get into, did I like the characters? Did I not? That's a different thing. Because Will pissed me off at first, but his development is what,
very nice to see.
is what gave me a 5. Daniel's whole arc with his dad was a 5 to me. Alex, her going from, I don't want to be doing this anymore, like at Silicon Valley. Silicon
Valley.
And then her wanting to move out, like her drive because of her parents and her grandparents' restaurant and all that. That to me was a 5. Irene is the one where I'm like, but she was still a cool character. Like it was that one character that you're like, she was needed there, like to cause the tension, I guess. But she also pulled shit out of her ass. Yeah, pull shit out of her ass. just on the spot to save the team at times. And it was like, whether we agree with that character or not, that was needed. That saved the group. Cool. And that to me was also, for the Heist perspective, that was
Definitely
for me a
needed.
5. Lily is the only one where I wish we got a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm okay with her because she was also a important part for the heist and for the group. Did not like her ending, like I said already, but I think as characters go, I think I was okay with all of them. And then Mr. Lang was GOAT.
Yeah. He's the GOAT.
Yeah. But yeah, just overall, I think there was nothing faulty about that. I think the characters were okay.
You know, I actually gave it a 3.
A 3?
Yeah. Because for the most part, I enjoyed all the characters. I think my least favorite, and then towards the end, I got a little bit more warmed up to, was Will.
Yeah.
Because for the good majority of the book, I felt disconnected to him. I needed just a little bit more give from him.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, I enjoyed how I enjoyed the conversation he had with Mr. Liang.
Yeah.
But it's like, I wish I kind of got a little bit more from this at the beginning, or give me pieces, give me some crumbs throughout the whole piece, so that I can feel a little bit more connected to Will. Because for the most part, I felt like he was like very away.
Okay.
And I also felt that way about Lily, because I wish I got a little bit more from her.
Yeah.
It is. I do like the way that you said it. It's like the mystery piece of it all.
Mm.
But knowing that we're not really going to get a second book out of her, I wish she was a little bit more. She didn't seem well-rounded to me. Like, every character felt a little bit more whole. She felt a little bit not there at times for me. Yeah. Like, I felt like I wasn't really getting much from her, and she was kind of overlooked. And eventually she just got married off to Will. Not married off, but you know what I mean. She just, got put off with Will, and I'm like, she's so much more than that. Give me more of that. Yeah. And so that's where I felt like a little bit of that development from her was just lacking. Yeah. Because I know she could have been such a huge piece, because she does have things in common with Will, but it's like, let me get some more development from her first. Right. So that was that. I'll say my favorite ones, Mr. Liang. He is the GOAT. I love him a lot. Yeah. He kind of is like, estos niños, they don't understand. Yeah. So, but I also liked Alex and Daniel. I warmed up to Irene. Yeah. Because at first I did not like her. I did not. But I like how you get like all the reasoning behind her actions. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you can kind of see the inner workings of Irene. Mm-hmm. And I like that, because I felt there were at times where I'm like, I'm seeing this through her lens, and I'm understanding her reasoning. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, dang, like, how can a character like this be so whole and then not really get that from like Lily? Yeah. At least that's how I felt. And that's why I gave it a 3. Yeah. But
no, that's valid. Just
like
because
it's just, I think it's just the lack of development from some of them, and not feeling that connected to like Will or Lily, when I feel like they had so much potential, just have a little bit more oomph, because you really got that from Irene.
That's what's cool about this kind of like review is, like we always say, we're two different types of readers, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. Like, now that you explain it, it makes sense as to why you gave it a 3. But that's like, it also attaches to the type of reader that you are, right? I feel like you're expecting more from the development of each, like, but for me, who just kind of like reads like whatever, right, is, to me, that was enough. Yeah. Right. And to me, those characters were cool, and I'm not really expecting more from it. Like I said, like, Lily could easily be made into like her own book, right, or whatever, or her own series. But if it doesn't happen, I'm content with that. Like, And I feel like that's what's cool about this thing that we do, is because to me, one thing that basically yeah, with a 5, I'm basically saying it's perfect. It's not, but I also think a 4 to me isn't whatever. Like, I think it's a 5, but then to me, a 5 is to you at 3. And it's like, that's insane, because it's like, we read the same book, but we see different things.
We see it in a different light, for
and that's
sure.
why I want to reiterate, we say this like every review, but it's like, read the book yourself.
Yeah.
Because just because one of us gives it a 5, the other gives it a 3, doesn't mean it's going to be the same score. For you, it could be a 1, a 0. You don't like the characters whatsoever. Or maybe you just really do, and you see 0 faults, which would be a problem because there is faults. But that's okay. Like, it's like, that's why we're going to keep going through this Brews review. But if you don't agree, or you do agree, still read the book yourself.
To make your own, formulate your own opinion about it.
Yeah. Just because of how different we all are.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Relatability. I gave this a 5.
I gave it a 5 as well.
I found this book to be very relatable.
Yeah.
So much. Especially with the conversation about like being quote unquote enough Chinese was like brought up.
Yeah.
I can relate to that a lot, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in like previous like episodes, is not knowing, like, when you're an immigrant child,
Yeah.
you are now brought into 2 different cultures.
Yeah.
And there are times where you don't really know if you are more of one or more of the other, because either you're born in that country and brought to another one at a very young age or later on, or your parents immigrated from another country
and you were born here.
And you were born in the country, like in a separate country. Yeah. So sometimes you just don't know who to really like connect yourself with more, because like Will said, I get asked who I am, and it's like, I am both, but sometimes I don't feel enough out of both.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel enough Chinese. I don't feel enough American. Like, regardless, there are going to be people from both sides that are going to tell you, oh, you're not American enough. Oh, you're not Chinese enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like it was such a slap to the face to Will when Mr. Lian told him, but you're not. But you're not Chinese.
Yeah.
You're American.
Yeah.
Like, you were born here. Why take from it?
But I feel like Mr. Liang said that on purpose.
Yeah.
He's like, tell me, like, he basically in his head, he thought, I'm going to ask this and you're going to tell me everything that I need to know based on your answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he didn't mean to insult him or anything like that. He's like, I'm going to drop this and you're going to give me everything I need to know. And this is going to determine whether I let you guys walk or not. So.
I think like that whole scene was just perfect to me.
Yeah.
But it also really brings out what I think is like one of the bigger conversations about this, is like not knowing who you are, more of one or the other. And that's something I can relate to, because as I've stated, I am Mexican, but I was brought here at a very young age. And so I've been brought up in America, but I am still tied to my Mexican heritage. I speak Spanish, but sometimes I don't feel enough of it because I'm not around the culture enough at like the country. And here, I also don't feel fully American because I have parts of my Mexican culture that I do every day that you just, it's not what Americans do. And so it's just nice to see everyone copes with it a different way. And so, I don't know. I really enjoyed that conversation. So,
yeah.
And I feel like Will's character towards the very end really explains a lot about it. Plus Lily throughout as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, for me, it was a 5 as well, because mainly the same reason. But as opposed to you, I was born here. I don't think I've said it before, but I am also Mexican American. My parents came here, and then I was born here. But I feel the same way, which like that, I guess, is a good explanation of it, right? You were brought here at a very young age. I was born here, but yet we feel the same.
Exactly.
It's like whether you're born here or not, you're still tied to those Mexican roots, or just the other country roots by your parents, and by your grandparents, and by your uncles, your aunts, your whole family, friends even. Like, it's not even just family. It's like just the culture around you is brought to you. But then you're also expected to join in the culture of the country that you're in, right? Because you're being brought up in this. This is your country. But sometimes you get conflicted because it's like sometimes you don't want to be. You want to be more of the other one, but you also don't have access to that. And you want to go to the other one, but then you go just back and forth. And it's like, I don't know where I lie. And to me, it's like, I don't know, like this book represented that well, where it's like, it doesn't matter what country it is. That same problem is found in
so many immigrant kids.
Yeah. From every single place. Especially, I feel like the topic a lot is when they come here. Mm-hmm. Right? Whatever country it is, it's because now you have the culture from your parents that get brought over to because they don't want you to forget who they are and where you came from. But then now you grow up here, and it's also like you got to mix both, and you're like, where do I go?
And then you also have people from like that same country who make you feel like you're not
welcomed.
And that's, like you're not from there.
Yeah.
Or from your home country, where people make you feel like you're not from there either.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting conversation to does have. And I think overall this book really brings it to light and keeps the conversation going, because it's crazy how the place where you're born or like can really dictate the things or like how you're brought up.
Yeah.
Per se. So such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And to think that this book is about a heist.
Yeah.
Or about a dad or with a father and a son reconciling.
Yeah.
It's such a great conversation.
And then I think another reason, I think it was my main reason was the identity thing, right? But I feel like another thing that I related to a lot was Will. Like his whole, I want this to be enough type of thing.
Yeah.
Just because I'm working on it, right? But I'm still trying to get to that point where I'm like, I need to have something where I can say, I got here and this is enough, right? Just because we're still young, we're still working on everything, right? But I feel like seeing him develop that, like, yeah, he was an asshole in 3/4 of the book, right? But seeing his development towards the end, and it didn't feel rushed or anything, and just him being able to say he went through all of that and then be like, take a picture, this is my place, like, that is like cool. That was just cool to see. It was just something that I could relate to, because it's like we're all trying to get to that this is good enough moment, right? And I just felt that was cool too. So
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a really nice book.
Yeah.
Experience / enjoyment. I gave this a 4.
I gave it a 5. Just because, if I go first.
No, go ahead.
It was the one book that we've read that I don't want to say dreaded, because the Fourth Wing was decent, but then when we got into more romance and steamy parts, that's when I started to get into like, I gotta read this crap again. But with this book, it was always, granted, I didn't take time out of my day to read it because just stuff going on, and it was like, just whatever. But when I did get to reading it, it was enjoyable the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, like, there was no like bad part or part that I didn't want to read until the very end, until the 6 months later like thing, right?
Yeah.
the whole time we were reading it, all the chapters that were split up, it always left you wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a bad way, as in like, oh, I gotta keep going reading, right? But we can't get ahead because then we'll know and something might slip up on one of these episodes. But it was a very enjoyable book to read because of the lessons. It's like every bit of the chapters that we split up taught something, or it went into a little more of what was being taught, right? And it was really cool because it's not, we were looking forward to the heists and all that and the plot, but we got lessons from it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a cool read overall, and it was just really, really enjoyable until the 6 months part.
I gave it a 4, mainly because every time I read it, I enjoyed it. I really did like it. There were just at times where I felt like I wanted just a little bit more, but I also understand why I couldn't get that much. So, and I think that's more of a me issue. I want to say it's not of the book. I think this is just personally me. Like, I really like the resolution of the book. I like the interactions with the characters, with the exception of Lily and Will. But I think I just wanted just a tad more from the heists. Yeah. But I understand why I couldn't get that, because these are just amateurs. Yeah. So I get it. But I really like, I think I just want a little bit more oomph. And I think a lot of that downgrade from like a 5 to a 4 came from just wanting a little bit more from the characters, maybe just a little bit more action from at least one of the heists. Yeah. Because the last one ended the way it should have been. That one was perfect. But I think from maybe one of the first two, I just wanted just a little bit more oomph. Just a little more. But that's why I gave it that. But again, I was like, this is such a nice read. Yeah. And there was moments where I'm like, dang, I can't believe I have to wait until next week to read a little bit more, or after we do the podcast to read a little bit more. But the book has such a nice pacing, but we'll get into that later.
Also, I do want to give a shout out to whoever read it on Spotify, because there was times where I would play the audiobook.
Oh, really?
Like on my drive to work or whatever, get a chapter or two in. They did their thing on the audiobook.
Oh, really?
Because they had a male reader and a female reader.
Oh, no way.
For every chapter. Now, Will and Daniel was the same guy reading it, and then Alex and Irene and Lily was the same woman reading it, but they went that extra step to give you that different voice so you could attach it differently, right? But they read it so there's another audiobook, right, that I'm reading, or that I would play for work. That one, for some reason, sounds like it's AI. Oh. Right? It's like it reads it with a tone, but you can tell that the tone is being like forced. It's like they plugged it in and they were like, say this with a question mark, right? And it would be like an AI thing. This,
had more emotion.
The two readers, they give it emotion. They read the things how the characters would be saying them, right? They're not just reading it. And I thought that was really cool. So I was, it probably didn't fit in the conversation at the moment. I could probably said this at the end, but it was just on my mind at the moment. I don't know for what.
I didn't even know.
Reminded me something, but yeah. And also, if you have Spotify Premium, that book is included in Premium already, so you don't have to go buy it separately. It's included with your Premium subscription.
Bruh, what?
So if there's anyone out there that has Spotify, doesn't want to go get the book or whatever, it's on there as well. This is not a sponsorship.
Hey, Spotify, you want to sponsor us?
Yeah, they want to sponsor us. But I just want to give a shout out to the two readers. Sorry, I don't have the names, but
shout out to y'all.
Yeah.
Writing style, what'd you give it?
Writing style, I gave it a 5.
I gave it a 4.
I think the reason I gave it a 5 is probably the reason you gave it a 4. And it was just the going back and forth between the points of views. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that, because I mean, it's different. It's the first time I've ever seen something like that. And it's cool to see the different points of view like that, rather than just have it flip in the middle of the page.
Like the narrative.
Yeah. Just like, okay, chapter 1 doesn't even have a name. It's like, okay, you're on Will's point of view now. And you know what you're reading is going to be through him. And as soon as you flip the page, Alex. So, okay, now switch mentality, Alex. And I think that, to me, that's really cool. I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
And see, you're right. I think this is the reason why I brought it down to a 4. Granted, I really do love her writing style. It's very easy to follow through.
Yeah.
Has very nice details in the descriptions and the feelings of these characters. Yeah. But it was just at times the changing of the points of views felt like I was being moved around a little too much. But it made sense with the storyline and how much like each character brought to the story. It made sense why we were flipping through each one.
Yeah.
So it's like I brought it down to a 4. It's personal. Not just her, like not. It's personal to me. Just person, like just. How many times can I say personal? Yeah, just the kind of reader that I am. I just sometimes just switching between so many points of views can be such a headache.
Yeah, but
it made sense because where the character was and the storyline, what they were doing, we have to see it in their perspective.
Yeah,
rather than it being told like later on, like in a very long chapter. Let me just see it like exactly in the way it happened while they were getting interviewed. Afterwards, you get, I don't know if it was Daniel or Lily's point of view, regardless, them breaking into the Met to get that file over to Min and Siki. Like it was needed for that to be like that, rather than and like why all over here, like very needed. But like I said, it's just preference, I guess. Yeah. But needed in the story, so I'll allow it. Storyline, I give this a 4.5.
Oh, I forgot we could do decimals.
We always go through this, I swear.
Yeah. Well, I had to give it a 4.
Oh, okay.
And I think I'm just gonna keep it like that. That way I don't have to redo the math. I did a 4 just because the actual plot itself was perfect. I thought it was great. The whole reconciliation between father and a son, while also adding the fun of the heists and then the themes laying within that. I thought that was great. What threw me off completely to a 4 was the end. The different endings for the characters. Now, had I remembered it was decimals, I probably wouldn't have given it a 4. Maybe probably would have gone with a 4.5. I don't, but I'm just gonna keep it at 4. Stand on business. I said what I said.
Bring it.
But it's not a 5 to me, right? Because I did get that little. Because you could say, oh yeah, but that was just a small part of the book. But it's the ending. It's how it all tied. It's the
last taste of the book that you get.
Exactly. And so to me, that brought it down 1. Just 1. It was still really good. It was close to being a perfect book for me. It's very enjoyable overall, but it was just that little bit at the ending that kind of threw it all off for me. But that's why I give it a 4.
Yeah. Overall, I really liked how the author took us through the story.
Yeah.
It may not be a complete ending that we all liked.
Yeah.
However, I feel like for the most part, especially with the way the heist ended, it's the story needed and especially the characters needed, because there was no way these amateurs / novices were ever going to steal art from all 5 of these museums. Yeah. There was no way that was going to happen without them getting caught. But this was their best outcome, and it was done so perfectly. Yeah. And I feel like you got the lesson out of the story. Right. And you got to enjoy it. And I feel like the storyline was just done very well. The only thing I think brought it down for me was just, I think, the development of some of the characters, how at least 2 of their endings were. Well, I guess four of them, because personally I think Alex and Irene would have just ended when Alex asked her, like, what else could we be?
Mm-hmm.
Irene saying anything you want.
Yeah.
That could have been just perfect with how that ended. Leave it there. Then Will and Irene, give them just a little bit more, but separately. Maybe they can be good friends. Maybe
You mean
that's
Will and
all.
Lily?
Yeah. Maybe that's all they need, to just be really good friends. No romantic involvement.
Because you had said Will and Irene.
Oh, my bad. Will and
They're
Lily.
siblings, bro. I was like, wait.
Oh, sorry. Will and Lily.
Yeah.
They don't need to be together. Let them be friends. And I feel like maybe that's what they needed. Just a core, like a really strong friendship.
Yeah.
Because Will does not seem like the type of person to really have that many friendships. I mean, at the very end, when everyone was there together, he's like, it feels enough.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's exactly what he needed. Just a friendship.
Yeah.
And Daniel, he good.
Yeah.
But I really like the story overall. This was
too.
such a good read.
Yeah, it was
Highly
really,
recommend. Yeah. Like my overall score, and I think it really hurt the feeling that I think I only had 1.5 in all of this, but my overall score was a 4.1 out of 5.
Mine was a 4.8 out of 5, and I feel like that is exactly what I feel, because it was very close to being a perfect book for me. It was really enjoyable. It was literally just the ending.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what brought it down, that 4.8, because that's what it was.
That would have almost been your first 5. A complete 5 out of 5.
And to me, it's been my favorite book from the ones that we've read.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. That was a really good one.
I really enjoyed it too. I think Fourth Wing is my favorite so far, but this is such a close one too. This is my second. I really like this. Like, I can't believe it took me so long to get to finally read this.
Yeah.
Like, Alexa.
Yeah. No, and it's shout out to Grace D. Lee, debut novel.
Yes,
and it was that good. I mean,
so good.
Like, yeah, it had the things that we were picking at it, but it also makes sense with it being a debut novel, right? But it's something that can be worked on, or maybe it's just her writing style, which is good too. Like, that doesn't need to be changed if it doesn't.
And I've got to say, this is like the second debut novel we've read, and this is like,
oh yeah, this is worlds beyond the first one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to that first one, but this is just so well done.
And it leaves me looking forward to her second book, which is still not announced, right?
No, it's not.
What did we say, 2025? I don't know.
I don't think I saw the date. I know she recently graduated, wasn't it?
Oh, hey,
like
congrats.
right? But she does have another novel that she's working on. I believe it's 2 students. I think maybe more.
2 like science students, right? Something
right?
like that.
Yeah, something like that.
We'll find it.
But I'm interested.
But we will be reading that.
Yeah, I will be reading that.
We
will be reading that. She has another 2 followers like to her work because this is such an enjoyable book.
It was.
And I'm so glad I heard about it from RF Kwong, because this is just so good.
Yeah.
So good. So 10 out of 10. I would like, this is one of those books, like we always say, like, read it yourself.
Yeah.
But this is one of those books, like, you should definitely read.
Yeah. Like, it's not like, usually we would say, yeah, we recommend reading it just to get your own opinion on it. But this is one where we're going to be recommending it for that reason, and also because it's actually a decent read for, like, just, it's a pleasant read.
Yes.
Like, I feel like that's the way to describe it. It's pleasant. It's a good time. Like, you don't feel like you're not wasting time, but you don't feel like you're wasting your time reading a book that you don't want to be reading anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people leave books after a couple of chapters just because they're just fall out of it. They're just like, this isn't one that I'm like, blah. I feel like this one is just a pleasant read. Like, it's like, you want to find out what's next at every point. You want to keep the theme going.
My gosh,
too.
The ending of this, just like the resolution of the heist. Let me kind of separate that from like the ending of the characters per se. But like, the story,
heist.
the heist, the last heist ending, how it all came for them was just perfect for the storyline. It was so good and so worth like having to read this whole book. Like the book itself is just really good overall, but that ending for the heist like makes it so worth it. You're like, ah.
Yeah.
And there are good conversations throughout this book and things to like have you think about. And I feel like that's just like, oh yeah, please read. Like, I'll probably be talking about this book for like a couple other, like for many moons. But
and it'd be really cool if, I don't know, this is a stretch, but to reach out to Gracie Lee.
And see like what it is. It'd be nice. We're very small, but we are small and mighty. But yeah, I'm kind of sad that this book is now come to an end.
It was a really good one.
But
and it's like, it gives me that feeling of, hey, I would reread this. I'm not going to, just because I already know. It's kind of like, I don't know, you could say it's the same thing for movies. You already know what's going to happen, but you rewatch them anyway. But I feel like, I don't know, for me, it's different with books. Just because I kind of like already read it. I know what it is. I don't know. But it gives me that sensation of if I were to read it again or want to read it again, I would. You know, it's
if you ever got that itch,
yeah,
you would probably read that one to get rid of that itch.
Yeah.
And see, I've read a couple of books again, mainly because they're like my comfort rom-com books per se.
You know what? That's what it is. Yeah. It's a comfort book. I think I just found my comfort book. I think that, that's what it is.
Me? Sorry, I was just looking at my cat. She's looking at us like, hello. But, see, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
But with this book coming to a close, that leaves us for next month's book of the month, per se.
Yeah.
We'll be reading The Martian by Andy Weir.
Or Veer, however you pronounce that.
And we'll be reading chapters 1 through 7. So this book is 369 pages, the same exact length of Portrait of a Thief. Probably just a little bit shorter by some of like the first and last pages of acknowledgements and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they're around the same length. However, this one has only 26 chapters.
27, no? 26.
No, 26 chapters, while Portrait of a Thief had 69. So that means we're going to be getting longer chapters.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a preview of it, which, by the way, you guys, I am actually going to be reading this on the Libby app. I'm going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
I feel like I do read ebooks a little bit faster than I do like just with a regular book, just because I have my phone handy with me at all times. But this is the first time I'm going to be reading like one of these books here on the Libby app. And I caught a sneak peek. That's where I was going at. I caught a sneak peek and I saw that it's like logs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm interested to see how this is.
Yeah.
So,
now I do have the blurb. Do I read that now, or is that the first episode of?
First episode.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Next
excited
week
for that one. I don't know. I like that genre as well, so I'm interested in.
I think what we'll do for this one.
Yeah.
Is I say we finish this book a couple days before we like record, watch the movie and talk about that.
Yeah. Or have a little bonus episode.
Yeah. We could also do a small bonus episode because that one.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. This is behind the scenes little talks, but we'll figure that out because this one does have a movie with it, which is our first one like with the podcast. So we'll be able to kind of take from each one per se.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice to see for this read, but I am excited for it as well.
Yes.
And I'm hoping I might remember things that may happen in the movie, but it's been years, so I don't think so.
No, yeah. I will.
So yeah, that's it. That's a wrap for Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee.
Unfortunately.
Next week, we'll be starting with The Martian by Andy Weir. Again, chapters 1 through 7. So we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye-bye.
See ya.